The 6 Russian nationals suspected to have terror ties to ISIS have been arrested in a coordinated ICE sting operations.
Think about how fucked up our immigration system is now, that ICE doesn't just have to deport people who are here illegally. They also got to be doing like the work of the CIA.
They are not coming here to be a part of the huddled masses. They're literally coming here to kill the huddled masses.
We have seen from the footage, you just see droves of people illegally enter.
Now you have ICE doing their level best to keep up, and then the Biden administration shitting on them.
They did an executive order on the border and,
Right.
and for the first time, acknowledge the fact that it's a crisis. Acknowledge that they have the power to do something about it. Tell me 5 days later, this news comes out, and
Yep.
that's a coincidence. It's all about how you can put something in place that provides an umbrella to protect them from downward spiraling politics.
These terrorists aren't asking you what your political affiliation is before they pull the trigger, or before they fly a plane into the building. They hate all of us, and they mean business, and we better get ready.
If they wanted to prevent what we were talking about, they wouldn't have changed a goddamn thing from the Trump administration, and they know that.
How many ISIS terrorists have crossed over that we don't know about?
What's driving your vote?
Yep.
What's driving your vote? Is it the border? Is it the economy? Is it Biden's age and inability to do the job?
A new study reports that credit card rewards provide a lifeline for working class Americans. Rewards like cash back empower low and middle income families to pay for the rising price of groceries and gas. So why are DC politicians partnering with corporate megastores to steal cash back from families during skyrocketing inflation? The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill takes billions from American families lining corporate pockets instead. Protect our credit card rewards lifeline. Tell DC politicians to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. Learn more at electronicpaymentscoalition.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Friday program. Of every week on the show, I'm Josh Holmes with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, and John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. It is a lot of news that we're about to cover here on the Variety program. Thanks for joining us once again, both on YouTube and in the podcast medium. Remember, you can like and subscribe. Like and subscribe if
You wish to opine.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Fun times, fellas.
Fun times. Can I say one thing real quick?
Oh, God.
Okay, so
I'm very nervous about when you do this at the top of the program.
don't be nervous.
Okay.
We've had some great shows, and I sometimes like to take a step back and appreciate that for both the listeners' sake and our own. I mean, we had Ben Shapiro on the show last week, and Mary Catherine Ham, fantastic guests.
Great.
Yes.
But I just want to let the audience know, this episode you're gonna get like an hour, maybe hour 15 of just straight uncut the fellas. we don't have a guest. We don't have a guest. You're gonna get that uncut, that real.
Like we had to. Mary Catherine Ham felt like she needed to make the misogyny joke because we weren't able
That was
to.
so fun.
And now what you're saying
we're
is
here.
that's
We
on-
have the courage.
That's on us. and we've got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I think that's a fair disclaimer right off the top.
Sure.
There's so many ways that you can go off the top of this stuff, but let's do what we do. Joe Biden. There was a Juneteenth thing. I'm checking my. It's June 12th. It doesn't feel like that's Juneteenth, but in June 9th or 10th, they were doing a Juneteenth thing, and this is the clip that we're going to take away from that. Clip one, please, Spaghetts.
She knows so long as she was denied. Her
The
freedom can never
fuck?
be secured.
Yeah, you know.
Can I get it one more time, please?
Play it again.
She knows so long as she was denied. Our freedom can never be secured.
What?
What the hell?
It's a stutter, okay?
Yeah, that's
I mean, come on. We're still doing this? We're still doing this.
We're still doing
We're
it.
still doing. I don't know if you guys saw the clip of him dancing.
yeah. Quote
No.
dancing.
No.
Dude, I saw this.
He wasn't dancing.
It was incredible.
Everyone else was dancing, and he was like a fucking wax statue at Madame
Yes.
Tussauds.
Yes.
Yeah, but right before we recorded, Duncan and I were watching this clip. Fox News was airing exactly that. And it was like, oh, it's a Juneteenth party. They had some band playing or something. And other people are dancing. And Biden was just like completely frozen. I was like, Duncan, all he's saying is to himself, don't die. Just don't die. Don't die, Joe. Just don't die. Just stay alive.
Breathe in.
Yeah.
Breathe
Because
out.
he's like fully concentrated. Like his hands were in front of him. It was like Frankenstein. But
Dude.
if Frankenstein wasn't brought back to
He
life.
had this frozen smile on his face, and I thought he had formaldehyde in his veins.
Just breathe in and then think. Simply breathe out.
It takes like his full concentration. Just don't die.
I mean, but the best part of that whole thing was that it was him, wax statue, Madame Tussauds, all
Yeah.
that very apt, and then Kamala with the second
With Doug.
man,
He's the second man? Is that his title?
Doug, where she was clearly trying to teach him to dance a little bit, which wasn't going well at all, and then immediately to his left, I guess his right, our left, as we're watching it, is just a guy in a dress.
It's just another day at the
Yeah.
White House, dude.
It was like, oh,
Full beard.
okay.
Full beard on
Well,
So,
They
sometimes
can't
you
help themselves.
Sometimes you find cocaine. Sometimes you find a dude in a dress. It's just another day in the White House.
it just is what it is.
that. America's back, baby.
Yeah, the adults are in charge.
We are back. So coming up here on Ruthless, as predicted here on Ruthless, we've talked about this quite a bit, and I think Smash, you kind of led the way on this.
Yeah.
ISIS terrorists have made it across the border. We'll give you details on their capture. None of the mainstream media wants to talk about this in particular, but it's actually a very, very real thing. We've talked about it a lot on this show. It's real. It happened, and we're going to get into that. Hunter Biden, obviously, we need to cover the fact that he was convicted for various crimes, tax and gun-related. There's all kinds of different stuff that involves that, but also some different wrinkle out of the White House in terms of what the president may or may not do.
Wow. Something about the rule of law?
Oh, it's a
Oh.
federal crime, so it's in a federal jurisdiction. It's interesting. We'll have to take a look at that. And then we've got some variety. Donald Trump is going to make it into variety today.
And it's so entertaining.
He had just had it's like what we do on this show.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things that everybody loves about Donald Trump is he kind of does what we do. You
Yeah.
just ask
Just the most fun dude.
questions.
Basically.
Sometimes you just got to riff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just make it happen.
Yeah.
We're going to play a game. King of the Hill is back. King of the Hill is back. And I'm a
Let's
reigning
go.
champion, so I'm looking forward to that in particular. We'll get to all of that right after this.
Hey, folks, my friends at Americans for Prosperity are again on the front lines fighting against the border crisis. It's clear the politicians aren't going to solve this on their own. It's going to take good old-fashioned grassroots activism, and that's what AFP specializes in. Americans for Prosperity Foundation has taken hundreds of concerned citizens to see the border for themselves, turning them into informed activists. And Americans for Prosperity knows just what we need: more border agents, more walls, and more technology. That's what makes Americans for Prosperity unique. They do the tough work of organizing and mobilizing everyday Americans to make a difference. In fact, they just announced a major campaign to hold Biden and his allies accountable for the crisis at the border. Learn more at securebordersecureamerica.com. That's securebordersecureamerica.com.
Okay, so ISIS terrorists, fellas, this is unbelievable. First, let's just play a clip. Clip number 2, please, Spaghetti, who, by the way, before he gets to this clip, he's wearing a hot dog shirt.
It's a thing of beauty.
Spaghetti? Yeah.
It's creative types, you know.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Is that what that is?
He's an artist.
I can't.
They're
You know,
eccentric.
I think he's wearing it in honor of Joey Chestnut, who won't be participating in the Nathan's
I
hot
know
dog
it.
eating contest.
Well, he's a
Unbelievable.
criminal. Chestnut is.
Yeah, because he signed this deal
What?
with the
Some vegan company.
vegan company, like a Impossible Meats situation.
I saw that. I didn't make the leap to criminal. but,
America's in decline.
Yep.
If Joey Chestnut is not in the Nathan's hot dog eating competition, America's in decline.
I agree.
Well, it was his choice. He did the vegan bullshit.
He did it.
As long as I have the guy in the top hat that's making the announcement, I'm watching.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to that clip.
I think it goes beyond what we saw last Saturday in the city. We have had 20 million people walk through the southern border in this country over the last 4 years, thousands of whom come from countries that hate us. We're raised to hate us.
Yeah.
They are here to do us harm. As we've said before, they're not taking out applications for employment at Home Depot. They are looking for an opportunity when we aren't paying attention. You know there is going to be violence. You saw the story about the Chechens who all of a sudden happened across the American Special Forces home residence. You know that people like that are here to do us harm. And I think that every American needs to be ready for it.
So that's Cashbrook, Smashbrook,
Hell yeah.
Ashbrook
Look at that.
giving us the whole...
Nostradamus.
That is Nostradamus right there.
No, yeah.
He's got a voice, but I mean, the guy can
Castradamus.
also see the future, clearly.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Why you get him? You get him so many good nicknames.
Well, he's
They're
got
all
a lot
earned.
of-
When do I get a cool one?
What's wrong with the old man?
The old man.
Old man's
old
pretty
man,
good.
The elderly.
Okay.
But the problem is, it is true, and I know you're going to go through a story, but everybody who tunes in on Twitter or onto Fox News, they see from Bill Melugin and others these terrorists just moving across our border, and we're supposed to trust Joe Biden that he's on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All this makes it more palatable when they look upon your locks, by the way. Look at his hair.
His hair looks great.
This is, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube, you should do it for no other reason than to have a gaze upon the head of hair that he's working today.
Yeah, I haven't seen a flow like this since Doug Burgum.
It's really just
That's quite the compliment.
High
it's
praise.
something. It feels like, I don't know what that product is, but it is first class, let me tell you. All right, so 6 Russian nationals suspected to have terror ties to ISIS. ISIS.
Oh, perfect.
Have been arrested in a coordinated ICE sting operation spanning LA, New York, and Philadelphia. The group is from Tajikistan. Not the friendliest place on earth. And at least one has been released after crossing the border. That was from Jenny S. Terror
Released.
Twitter account. This is from the New York Post. 6 Russian nationals suspected to have terror ties to ISIS have been arrested. I covered that. 2 ICE, not ISIS, ICE sources confirmed to the Post that they arrested 6 people who hail from Tajikistan over the last week after the FBI contacted the agency to warn it.
Yeah.
Part of the investigation featured wiretap, which revealed one of the now arrested individuals was talking about bombs. Quote, remember the Boston Marathon, unquote. Well, where was that guy from? Tajikistan. I'm afraid that something like that might happen, or worse, one of the sources told the Post. The target, who was subject to the wiretap, was previously released to federal authorities at the southern border with a court date next year.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing that we've talked about. It's a,
It's a game to them.
It's catch and release. That's what it is.
You pass go, you get your $200 Visa card, you get your hotel room in New York City, and if you feel like it, maybe a year from now, show up to a court date that you probably won't, and you'll already be in America.
Dude, it's even longer than that now
Yeah.
because they've been so overwhelmed with all these bullshit asylum claims. You've got these judges who are supposed to hear these cases where, like, people wait years, literally years, and they
when you
get
have
released
a
into the
million
country.
people that are rolling through the border.
Yeah.
Like what we don't employ a million judges.
And fucking wild that this is ICE's responsibility to track down terrorists in our country. Like, think about how fucked up our immigration system is now, that ICE doesn't just have to deport people who are here illegally. They also got to be doing, like, the work of the CIA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at any time a regular person raises concern about this, the mainstream media is like, oh, you're xenophobic.
Yep.
Shut up and sit down.
Yep.
You couldn't even point out Tajikistan on a map. I don't care if you can point out Tajikistan on a map because they know where we live.
Bingo.
And that's why they're coming here. They're not, like we say all the time, they are not coming here to be a part of the huddled masses. They're literally coming here to kill the huddled masses.
Totally.
These are not immigrants to our country. They're terrorists. They need to be found and they need to be stopped before they cause us more harm than they already have.
But also just think about this for a minute. Our immigration policy at this level, like, let's get beyond the getting away with remain in Mexico, not building a southern border wall, all that stuff that makes perfect sense to everybody with a brain and who draws breath. Ultimately, the interior enforcement in our country relies on the honor system. Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing that you get at like a, when you're working in an office space and they have some soda and candy and they're like, just leave $1 if you take something. That's basically what our interior enforcement is. You're telling people like, okay, we're concerned about several things. Come on in, enjoy yourself. But in 2.5 years, you got to show up at this court date with this time. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's an honor system, and
that only applies if you're caught. And that's, to me, the biggest takeaway from this is, like Ashbrook mentioned, Bill Malugin has done terrific reporting on this. And we have seen from the footage, you just see droves of people illegally enter. Mm-hmm. Not all of them are standing by waiting for these like overwhelmed ICE agents to pick them up and process. The thing is yes, these are the folks who were caught. Yeah. But they are in the minority of the hordes that cross over. How many ISIS terrorists have crossed over that we don't know about?
Well, let me give you guys another terrifying thought. You all remember the number one conclusion on the 9/11 report, that various factions of the American bureaucracy were not talking to each other. Yeah. That there was no communication between people who knew that Mohammed Atta and others were in the country.
CIA, FBI. It was the impetus behind the creation of the Department of Homeland Security.
Exactly. And now you have ICE doing their level best to keep up, and then the Biden administration shitting on them every day for doing their jobs.
This isn't fucking ICE's, like, this is my whole point earlier. It's like, this isn't ICE's job to be tracking down terrorists in our country. Right. This is insane.
They're just there to secure the border.
That's such a good point.
And that's the thing is, when they're trying to do their job, this administration has called them racist, right, has tried to ruin their lives, fire them. This lie that some like left-wing idiot on Twitter said that like
Border Patrol
is whipping these migrants. It's called, he had the reins of a horse. Right. He had the reins of a horse. Right. And they're like, oh, he's whipping people out there. Absolute lie.
They're doing everything to try to make it harder.
They're doing everything possible to make the border more and more chaotic.
But the thing is this doesn't come out of nowhere. Right? According to the Post, the arrests come after warnings from FBI Director Chris Wray about possible ISIS terror plots being staged on U.S. soil and the group's potential for exploiting the southern border. In April, Wray warned lawmakers that a possible, quote, coordinated attack, unquote, could take place in the U.S. following an ISIS-K attack on a concert hall in Moscow, carried out by citizens of
Tajikistan.
There it is. They killed 145 people and wounded hundreds.
If you're not concerned about this, you're not paying attention.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
You know what? It'd be nice if he got called in front of Congress and he was like, my number one concern is white supremacy. He's sending agents to school board meetings. Buddy, maybe you should worry about what's happening here.
To be honest with you, like having read everything that there is to read about this stuff, Wray is actually, even given what you just said, which is 100% accurate, Wray is one of the only ones with the head like sort of screwed on right.
But then move the resources, because we know the resources are overwhelmed at the border. Yeah. Do not send FBI agents to school board meetings worrying about if everyone is misgendering or gendering everyone correctly. Send them to the border. Catch the terrorists.
I just think, dude, honestly, and I mean, this is going to sound conspiratorial and maybe crazy.
Let's go.
I'm just going to fucking go. I'm going to riff.
Let's do it.
I mean, I think failure is the fucking point. Yep. I think failure is the point. Yep. And Glenn Beck talked about this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, this idea of this like cloud-driven strategy. This is the idea of the Marxist back, like overwhelm the welfare rolls, and that's going to get us to transform America. They did this in the 70s. And I think that's what they're doing at the border because like everything else doesn't agree. Like the logic of it doesn't make sense. Like Biden knows, the Democrats know this policy of just like roll out the red carpet and let all the illegals into this country and not vet them and all this sort of stuff is terrible for their electoral prospects. They know that. Like if you talk to a Democrat and you gave them truth serum, they'd be like, this is fucking crazy. Why are we doing this? But they're doing it. And the reason why they're doing it, it's the Cloward Piven strategy. It is overwhelm the system so that we can make change in this country. That's what they want. Like the short-term politics is fucking horrible for them. But they're willing to do it.
Can I get crazier?
Okay, let's go.
I'll get crazier.
Let's do it.
This whole thing came out this week. Last week, the Biden administration did what they said they couldn't for the course of 3.5 years. They did an executive order on the border, and for the first time, acknowledge the fact that it's a crisis, acknowledge that they had the power to do something about it. Tell me 5 days later, this news comes out, and that's a coincidence?
First time it happened, I'm sure. They've never crossed before.
Like they don't get intel briefings every single day about what's going on here? Like these people hadn't been in our country? They had. It's politics.
That's right.
This is what we've gone back to all the time with the Biden administration. It's never about the policy. It's never about trying to do the right thing by the American people. It's all about how you can put something in place that provides an umbrella to protect them from downward spiraling politics. It has nothing to do with the politics. If they wanted to prevent what we were talking about, they wouldn't have changed a goddamn thing from the Trump administration, and they know that.
That's right.
They know that. But the fact that they changed all of that and then created all of this chaos and then refused. Remember in 22, this was like the biggest issue going into the midterm elections. Everybody was talking about it. And you had candidate after candidate going out and saying, they're making it up. There is no border crisis. There is no crisis at the border. That's literally what the Democrat talking point was at the time. Mayorkas got impeached over saying that there was absolutely no border crisis. We did not have a problem at the border. Yeah. So a year later, all of a sudden they're like, we do have a crisis at the border, and now we're going to do something about it. And then 4 days later, they roll out that they're arresting ISIS fighters in the United States. You're telling me that's totally separate? No way.
Yeah.
Dude, you're right.
You're raising a very important point and I think a lot of people think that Joe Biden will go down in history as the president who wasn't up for the job because he was way too old. I think he's going to go down in history as the guy who rolled out the red carpet for terrorists to come into American neighborhoods and to do in American neighborhoods what we saw happen in Israel on October 7th. I think it's going to happen here. And all we're going to have is either our ability to protect ourselves in our own homes, or we call 911 and hope sheriff's deputies can get there quickly. But I mean, it is scary. They're going to do it here in America. You can bet on it.
Well, talking to some of my buddies, there are some neighborhoods that are going to be easier to take than others.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. It's true.
I don't know if they've done their due diligence on that or not, but anyway, listen, clip 3, if we can play this, Spaghetts. I think
we have a lot of the campaign rhetoric speaking of what people say they would do. You've seen the Trump campaign talking about mass deportations. We tested that in a general way in principle. Would you support a new government program that would deport all people living in the U.S. illegally? And that finds majority favor. That finds 6 in 10. It's strongest among folks who are MAGA. It's strongest among Trump supporters, but also from some Democrats as well. And I think that speaks to the general idea, not just that people see the border as a crisis, but also where we are in the campaign, where a lot of very dramatic or new proposals out there are finding favor here.
It's dramatic. It's shocking.
I have never seen somebody work so hard to undermine obvious evidence, and this is something you
62. The graphic they put up
62%
of all Americans, Republican, Democrat, Independents, everyone believes that you ought to deport anyone here illegally, and they're like, well, these are radical ideas. Maybe it's a campaign thing.
Honestly, this is sort of Donald, like back from when he came down the golden escalator in 2015. This has been his superpower in politics, is that he very frequently says the obvious thing that is 2/3 of the country's approval.
Yep.
That for whatever reason in our politics and our media is something that does not ever get discussed. It's like it's a fucking radical thing. And yeah, I mean, it sounds radical in the context of the discourse that's allowed on cable news, right? But if like you watch cable news every single Sunday, you'd be like, well, you know, it's 6 one, half dozen the other, and like there's people who want a secure border and people who want more, you know, soft immigration policies, and it's like that's not what the people actually want. The people in this country want the people who walked across this fucking border for no reason to go home.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and the amount of shock you saw. Like I saw a clip of after he said that. Margaret Brown was like, "My God, they want to deport people who broke the law?
Yeah.
Are you serious?" Stunned because everyone around them, everyone they know at all these cocktail parties, they don't have to worry about it. They're rich as hell. They don't have to deal with it. And for so long, it was especially in border communities in this country, in Texas, everyone who was told, shut up and take it, shut up and take it. You know, the Statute of Liberty says for you to shut up, right? And so when you had Governor Abbott, you had Governor DeSantis start shipping these illegals to where they are sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
And now they're your problem. You said you were a sanctuary. Deal with it.
You know,
and
like,
then you get these
my
cities
God.
overwhelmed. They're like, my God, this is unbelievable. How dare he send them here? And now we're having to cut back on services we can provide to people in this city because of all these illegals. That's how you get to that 62% number.
It's a false sense of security, they feel, because on 9/11, famous people, important people, top libs, they were killed too.
Yeah.
And these terrorists aren't asking you what your political affiliation is before they pull the trigger or before they fly a plane into the building. They hate all of us, and they mean business, and we better get ready.
Yeah.
One other thing I would say, just to put it like a fucking stamp on this whole thing, is like what we accept as the United States for our immigration policy is not something that exists in any other first world country in the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. Try to go and fucking immigrate to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like these people, like that woman who was the prime minister of New Zealand, who became a hero of like the, you know, vote blue no matter who resistance Twitter accounts. They fucking love that woman. Go try to immigrate. Go immigrate to New Zealand.
Yeah,
see how that
that's
works.
like.
It doesn't work.
If you go on a 14-day vacation, they're going to remove you on the 13th day. You know?
But in the United States, like, you're supposed to just accept. You roll out a red carpet for anybody who can walk across the border. It's fucking insane.
Yeah. Now, like, it's crazy, but it prompts the question of the day. And you recall, we get all of our information from this stuff and your feedback. And we're going to get into a segment that we asked on Tuesday in a moment. But this question is, clearly the border is a huge problem for Biden.
Yeah.
All polls show that. What's driving your vote?
Yep.
What's driving your vote? Is it the border? Is it the economy? Is it Biden's age and inability to do the job? Really want to know, because I think a lot of these polls are self-selecting. You're getting people, like how many people you know, just like in your social circles, who are sitting at home, they just fed the kids, they went to soccer practice and softball and everything else, and they're like, you know what? I got 19 minutes to answer a poll. Mm-hmm. It's a very self-selecting crew. Yep. There's just not a ton of people who. So I think it undersamples pieces of this, which is why we're so interested in your feedback on it. What's driving your vote?
Yep.
Is it the border?
That's the $1 million question right there.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get back to us on that.
Great question.
Get back to us on that. We want to read some comments on what we were dealing with last week, or Tuesday, which was, is the Hamas caucus going to cost Biden the election? You recall, in all of these polls that we've been talking about, he's lean on young, progressive Democrats, very reliable Democratic constituencies. Part of the reason he's not at ballot parity in a lot of these states is because they're just not doing what they need to do amongst their base, and that's why they see these bizarre triangulations and absolute catastrophic policy decisions that they're making. So the question to you is, do you think that that's the difference? And question first goes to you, Smash.
Okay, so this is our first comment, comes from Scott Mungo, and of course we get a lot of great comments. And remember, if you want to submit, like and subscribe, Like and subscribe if you wish to opine. Scott Mungo, 5643 writes, fellas and gal, so addressing our girl MK. It's hard to know where within the Democratic Party the Hamas position impacts Biden's reelection, but it's clear at least a few haven't drank the Hamas caucus Kool-Aid. However, the Hamas caucus position solidifies the Republican base, even forces some never-Trumpers away from Biden. But I believe the more significant movement away from Biden is within independents. How much remains to be seen? Keep up the great work, fellas. Be ruthless Tuesdays and Thursdays. I am.
I love
it.
Outstanding.
Great comment from Scott. Dunks, what do we got?
We got Mike Sharp 4607, who says, will the Hamas caucus cost Biden the election? Maybe. But as a resident of the only state to vote for Walter Mondale.
No, he's mini. He's a mini guy. My boys.
I must say I respect the Democratic Party's ability to whip their caucus in line, no matter the cost. With the one-seat majority the past 2 years, our state Dems have passed a radical agenda in a previously sensible but left-leaning state. I agree with Holmes that Dems will find a way to bring their caucus in line at election time. Might help that 16 states, parenthetical like mine, now issue ID to illegal immigrants too.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it.
That's the slippery slope. They always play with the slippery slope. Like I saw in D.C. they're going to let illegals vote, and they're like, oh, it's only municipal elections. They did the same thing in New York where like illegals can vote, and municipal guys, we're not saying they can vote for Congress and president yet.
Right.
They always keep
It's
Oh, yeah, no,
always
it's
a slippery slope.
always
Yep,
kind
just
of work their
municipal.
way in.
That's how
But
it
like
works.
Mike, like me, is very cynical about all of this.
Yeah.
If you can't be raised in Minnesota or be a sports fan and not be. Smug, what do we got for the third?
So this is from Turin Galila, 1862. They write, if the Democrat Party Hamas caucus and its constituents cause the Dems to lose in November, it won't be because their votes or lack of votes change the margins by much. In fact, I would be surprised if many of them didn't end up quietly voting for Biden in the end. It will be because they are the loudmouths of the party and hold many powerful positions, which has caused Biden or his handlers, maybe the Easter Bunny, to cater to them.
Yeah.
The people who put Biden into office were largely politically disconnected suburban voters who don't want to have anything to do with these activists. The more the administration caters to the smallest number of activists, the more they will alienate the much quieter and more numerous normal suburban voters. I do wonder if the pandering is political or ideological in nature, though. Are they just trying to go after the college activist vote, or do they actually have an ideological dog in this fight? That's a question.
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's
Great,
dude.
dude. I love
Very
our
thoughtful.
listeners so
Yeah.
much. Like, that is such a thoughtful response, because that is the question.
That's the
that I-
whole thing. That's the crux of it.
It distills down everything we've had these conversations over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck are they doing here? Like, where do they feel like the calculus here makes sense?
And it obviously, quite obviously, every time they pander to this small minority of people with bonkers ideas, alienates that subset of voters that he was talking about that actually won the presidency for Joe Biden and
Right.
gives Donald Trump a greater foothold with a constituency that post-2020 he had sort of alienated. So it really is a catch-22. I think they're in a rock and a hard place on this
Yeah,
stuff. I
100%.
really do. It is brutal, to say the least. All right. We got to cover Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Unless you were living under a rock. You saw that President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was convicted of all 3 felonies in a federal gun trial, this is according to AP. Hunter Biden was convicted on Tuesday of all 3 felony charges related to the purchase of a revolver in 2018 when prosecutors argued the president's son lied on a mandatory gun purchase form saying he was not illegally using or addicted to drugs. That is a fact. I just don't think there's anyone who
Well,
could
40
dispute
members
any
of the CIA and FBI said that all those are lies.
Those are Russian.
Yeah, don't believe what you saw.
The absolute best part of that trial was federal prosecutors on day one using the laptop as evidence against Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
That was the absolute best. Anyone who signed their name to that list of people who said that that laptop bared all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation ought to be forever prohibited from talking about, participating in, or ever doing anything in national politics ever again.
And that includes the current president, who also ran with that line during his election.
Yeah. I mean, you can't... The irony of that is just completely hilarious. The fact that that actual instrument was the thing that turned the dial, they thought that was the number one piece of evidence against a guy that 4 years prior they used at the end of October to say, like, well, here we go again. It's more
Russians.
And
more
they even,
Russian stuff.
during an election, the fact that they went after social media companies and demanded that they censor that, I mean, that's election interference. That's election interference.
Completely. Well, I mean, he's obviously guilty of all this stuff, right? I mean, there was never really a question about it. But let's go to clip 3A, because I think it sets the table for a better discussion.
Yes.
About...
You're not ruling out that he would commit the sentence.
What I'm saying is that the president, I have not spoken to the president about this, and what I'm saying is he was asked about a pardon. He was asked about the trial specifically, and he answered it very clearly, very forthright. As we know, the sentencing hasn't even been scheduled yet. I don't have anything beyond what the president said. He's been very clear about this.
He's been not very clear at all.
No.
And what the question was about whether they would commute, whether Biden, because it's a federal crime and this is his jurisdiction, unlike New York, which is a state issue and federal jurisdiction has absolutely no pardonability or commutation ability in terms of the sentencing in the Donald Trump felony cases. This is a federal crime, so the president actually has direct oversight and could pardon or could commute. And she asked him, the question was whether or not he would do it. And it's like the president's been very clear. If he's been very clear, the question wouldn't be necessary.
No.
He hasn't been clear at all. We don't have no idea. And yet they were buying time on it. Like, imagine being a White House press secretary when the president's son is convicted of 3 felonies and the sentencing is coming up and not having an answer to whether or not the president is prepared to pardon or commute his kid.
And particularly hilarious because, you know, Joe Biden will tweet out, like, nobody's above the law in this country. And, like, that's a subtweet of Donald Trump in this New York case, which we obviously know is insane. And he went on the record to say, I wouldn't pardon my son. Well, good for you. Fantastic. But then you got the
commutation.
White House hears the question of commutation and suddenly becomes a gray area.
Yep.
But here's the best part. I didn't get a chance to talk to the president about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't?
That wasn't something that comes up.
The guy, he fucking,
hell are y'all talking about?
He flew back to Delaware to see his son, to give him that hug, to be like, I'm sorry you're such a failure.
Joe Biden his wife is standing with him at the goddamn trial. Didn't think about it. I don't know.
It didn't pop up, I'll tell you what.
I don't know. We never thought
Didn't
about
come
any
up.
of this thing. And the press secretary's like, I don't know. We were focused on, making sure ISIS can get through the southern border. Hamas can, redirect our funding.
Yeah, nobody's above the law unless you're a terrorist from Tajikistan with directions to rendezvous near Philadelphia.
It's just unbelievable.
I want to get to this one line because it really bothered me. It says, President Joe Biden issued a statement shortly after the verdict saying he would accept the outcome of the case and, quote, continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Okay, how is this respecting the judicial process when the whole reason this trial even exists is because a whistleblower brought up the fact that your son cut a deal with your Justice Department to be like, okay, we're going to let him go on a misdemeanor, and he is also going to get immunity from future charges.
Yeah, dude, that's the wildest thing. And I feel like that's all lost in all of this. Is you remember when that judge looked at the deal that the federal prosecutors were going to give to Hunter Biden, where he basically got not just immunity from these cases, or they threw out these cases or whatever, but also future cases.
Yeah.
Future cases. And the
They're
judge
like,
looked at this.
Judge, we're going to give him a get out jail free card
permanently for the rest of his life. And the judge looked at that and they were like, this is fucking insane. No, that's not going to happen. That's the only reason
and
this
a
actually went to
whistleblower
trial.
had to come forward and say that.
Yes.
Or else, how is it believing the law when you were completely cool with having your Justice Department cut a get-out-of-jail-free deal with your son.
Yeah.
It took a whistleblower to catch you bastards.
Dude, the thing that is, I think, the funniest in all of this, and this is a little dark. I don't give a shit.
Old man.
I'm going to fucking say it.
The old man.
The one person in America who wants Joe Biden alive is Hunter Biden right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, the Democrats fucking hate Joe Biden, and they can't believe they got themselves in this pickle where he's going to run for president again. The one person who needs him to be alive on January 19th, before Donald Trump swears an oath on January 20th, is Hunter Biden.
There's like, I can imagine the approval process that goes through the campaign where it's like, oh, we're going to have him in 7 cities in 7 days. We're going to do all this. He's like,
No, dude, just lose.
Yeah.
Just lose. I just need you there on January 19th to issue the pardon for me.
It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really busy Saturday. I'm rubbing Dad's calves.
I don't want him to throw a clock.
I mean, seriously. We got a couple of clips that we got to play. Let's go to clip 4, please, Spaghetts.
I'm more interested in what it tells us about the rule of law in this country in 2 ways. One, the son of the sitting president was pretty quickly tried. He was given due process and he was found guilty. And you have the current president, the father of the defendant, making it absolutely clear that he is not pardoning him, that he could have ordered at any time his Justice Department to get rid of this case. He did not do that. He has said that he is not planning on pardoning him as well. And I really think that if you look at this case, what is the big picture here? It's not a drug addict who possessed a gun for 2 weeks. It is that you have a president of the United States who is living embodiment of the rule of law, even with respect to his only living son.
That is so shameless.
Holy shit.
The living embodiment of the rule of law.
This is on television. Like, people are like, yeah, that's a perspective.
Yeah.
That's good.
This is the thing is, they wanted to have this because they wanted to be able to, number one, be able to say convicted felon Donald Trump, but they want to be able to have this bullshit, like slap on the wrist trial for Hunter to be like, oh, look, you know, no one escapes the law. What else was on that laptop?
Right.
Why wasn't he charged with peddling influence to China? Why wasn't, because that leads back to Joe Biden.
Smug, you're 100% right. Like, this trial for Hunter Biden is the fig leaf.
Yep.
That Joe Biden puts over the American justice system.
Yeah, it's like all fair.
To be like, it's all fair.
Good, right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Alvin Bragg took a misdemeanor and turned it into 34 felonies. But
it's like when you and your buddy have a 7-foot par look, and you look at him, you're like, good. He's like, yeah, good.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, we both hit that putt.
But that's, when are they going to try him for selling influence overseas illegally?
So
because he was an energy executive. Oh, that's why he was overseas cutting these deals. That's why he's on a conference call with his father, telling people in China that, like, listen, you got to hit the wire. You got to send the money, and we'll give you the deliverables. None of that is talked about because they want to have this cover. They'll be like, oh, look, equal justice in this country. Try them for that shit.
I think that's still coming, though, right?
Nope,
like in California, the tax evasion
not
stuff?
with this Department of Justice.
No, not with the Department of Justice, but I think it's coming in the state of California.
They're doing tax evasion. They're not doing, why is he foreign influence? Why is there no FARA charges? They can't do that because like all those trails lead to Joe Biden, who had a key to the office. Like, it is incredibly damning. And goes straight to the fact that Joe Biden is corrupt.
Can I take this sideways for a sec?
Please.
Did you guys notice that B-roll? Take a look at that situation.
What?
Do you see the chick that Hunter Biden was rolling up with and rolling back?
No.
Can we...
Wait, is that South African chick?
I don't know who this lady is, and I haven't done a lot of homework into it. We're gonna play this, but... what is striking about this situation from my perspective, one, the only thing that he's got going for him is that this lady is accompanying him to trial. Can you imagine a pitch where you're like, hey, look, I smoke crack on the reg. I'm under federal indictment on like gun charges and tax evasion. everybody, this chick, there she is.
Yeah.
Right there. If you're a YouTube watcher.
That's his wife.
Yeah, his wife. I think she is South African, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is she doing? How did he figure this situation out?
I will give you a quick answer. Locker number 37. She knows that if she goes to the White House and near the mess opens up locker number 37, it's all the cocaine she could want.
My God.
Hunter puts it there for her and others.
But isn't it I mean, it's amazing to me. Look, I understand that the world's full of all kind of unscrupulous characters, and you make decisions oddly with fame and things in mind. But I don't know of a person in our common era who has been more, shall we say, disclosed on what it is that they're into. Everything from the feet.
Can I explain it to you?
From the feet to the hookers to the crack.
Let me explain it to you.
To his dead brother's wife.
Yeah, I think what you're underappreciating is the thing that women look for the most in men is confidence.
Oh, so he's got all of it?
He's got all of it. And I mean, I heard about the testimony from one of the strippers where he was smoking crack in the VIP room and put on Fleet Foxes. He's listening to Fleet Foxes and he's smoking crack, and she's like, I felt so safe with him. And it's like, look, dude, having the confidence of a man like Hunter Biden is the cheat code in life.
I'm going to say this to all the fathers out there with daughters. I have 2 sons. This is not my area of expertise. Spend time with your daughters. Make sure that you spend a lot of time with your daughters. The fact that this is possible.
The fact that a man who's smoking crack in front of you can describe as a man who made you feel safe is a wild thing.
This is a wild thing. Like, as a parent, this is a horrifying development, right? I mean, oh God, I just can't. Smug, it's hard for you to relate to, but I'm just telling you, as a parent, you look at that kind of situation. Somebody's her dad.
Yeah, and
they're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Like, this guy is the guy for my girl.
Well, that's the thing.
What?
It becomes incredibly clear that these people are untouchable, right? Like, no one's going to do anything to the Bidens. It's become clear. And,
you know,
it makes me mad because you have these DAs like Alvin Bragg and Fannie Willis and all these people trying to make a name and have gotten themselves elected running on the promise that I will prosecute Donald Trump. I will go after my political opponents, and I will use the power of the state to do so. Where are AGs with that? Hunter Biden walks around so comfortably because of that fact. Joe Biden walks around so comfortably because of that fact. Get his ass, people. What are y'all doing?
I want to play one more clip. This is from Terry Moran. Clip 6, please. Spaghetti.
That for all of the major implications of the first conviction of the child of a president, this trial inside the courtroom, like virtually every criminal trial, was a personal story, a personal tragedy, a family tragedy. The guilty verdicts that the jury has handed down on Hunter Biden were verdicts not just on his conduct under law, but on his collapse into drug addiction and the consequences of it. So many American families understand that, and now the first family has gone through it as well. The political consequences of it may be tempered by the fact that this is a scourge that has touched so many American families, even the president's.
Nobody in America gets a framing like that.
It's incredible.
There is no one in America that gets a framing that somebody has been indicted and convicted by a jury of their peers on federal felony counts. And it's like, well, we've all gone through it. And we all know the scourge of addiction.
But for the grace of God, go I.
Right.
You know?
And like, look, I understand there's elements of this to addiction.
Right.
Like, I get it. But nobody gets that.
That's the thing. Is
nobody gets that.
He has a point.
They're the only ones that get it.
It's a tragedy. You know, lots of people, they suffer addiction and then they start selling our country to China.
Yeah.
And, you know, they pull guns on hookers. This is just like part and parcel. It's a tragedy that every American understands.
The guy's 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They try to paint us like some kid struggling with it.
They keep acting like he's 17.
Right. There's nobody addicted to fentanyl in the Midwest who's on the board of a natural gas company in Ukraine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Shoveling millions into their bank account and the bank account of their family members.
That's right.
that by virtue of their relationship with their father, they're doing, right? I mean, to your larger point, this is a conviction, no doubt, on facts that were not in dispute, that is fine. But like ultimately, the larger issue with Hunter Biden is unlitigated.
Yep, because it all leads straight to Joe. 10% for the big guy. This last clip, I really want to have this aired too. Can we get clip 7, please?
Nor every presidential family is part of the American family. That's the way it works. This is a tragedy for the Biden family, precipitated in large measure by the death of Beau Biden.
Oh, my God. Oh, my
For
God.
8 years,
about
the
Beau.
Attorney General of Delaware.
The tone.
Not the favored son, but the more prominent of the two sons. Hunter Biden's problems began to spiral. That is a word that is used in addiction therapy with some frequency. After Beau's death. He simply could not grapple with it. He made a ton of terrible decisions involving many members of the Biden family who had to find their way in, through, and out of this trial. That family drama played out in a courtroom in ways we have never seen before. It doesn't make it any less painful for the nation or for the family.
The nation.
The nation is not pain.
The nation. Apply.
So
the nation. But he found his way into and through his wife's widow. Like, or his brother's widow. Like this, they're like, this is a tragedy. This dude's banging his dead brother's wife. Get the hell out of here.
But again, what they're saying about addiction and what they're saying about drug problems throughout the country, in and of itself, is not untrue. That this is a factual statement that many families, including many of you who are listening, have dealt with.
But fucking offensive.
Real.
But it's fucking offensive
because they're trying to use that
they use that as the leverage to basically say this wasn't a crime.
And it's not provided to anyone else.
Anyone else.
There's no one else whose conviction for unrelated crimes to their drug addiction is somehow sacrosanct. That somehow this is a good person gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. That's not what we do here.
And I'd also
the justice system is blind when it comes to the mitigating factors that contribute to the underlying crime. In the underlying crime, the facts were not in dispute.
Yeah, right.
And they're saying that all of this is just a result of Beau Biden.
One other thing I just want to point out here, really, just to put like an exclamation point on this whole segment. And this isn't just like, we didn't just show you clips from MSNBC.
No, these are mainstream media.
That's CBS News. That is broadcast news in this country that goes to millions of Americans, nonpartisan people who just want to like turn on the TV and get the news of the day. And that's how it's framed on broadcast mainstream news.
It's like, oh man, what a sympathetic guy.
Yeah.
Operating under a license that's controlled ostensibly by the people listening to this show.
Right.
Honestly, if you look back on like Hugh Rodham or Billy Carter or like all the other, sort of family members of
deadbeat Democrats. Yeah.
Deadbeat Democrats who've been a part of like the justice system and all, like they could only have hoped
for
framing like this.
It's a heavy lift to try to reelect this clown Joe Biden. Like that's why
they never would have gotten it.
No,
it's that bad now. No, this is your journalism. This is the direction this is taken.
It's a super PAC for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
They don't register the same way as super PACs do today. Maybe in the future that will change.
All right. Well, I want to give a big thanks to our sponsor here, Qualius Analytic. Just remember, we've talked about this before. And I don't know if you've heard about it. If you haven't listened to us before, if you haven't heard of it, it's a class of ingredients discovered less than 10 years ago. And they're being called the biggest discovery of our time of promoting healthy aging and enhancing of, your physical well-being, right? And we've taken this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, it's a very simple thing because it's not like something that you have to take daily, twice a month. And they've gotten all these PhDs to do research on it. Essentially, the way it works is your body has these dead cells. Stay there. It ages you. You get these problems, whether it's like, you're going to have muscle pains, joint pains, or whatever. This clears it on out. And I can tell you, I mean, not only does it help relieve that, it helps, it gives you more energy because it just cleans it out.
Yeah, they're called zombie cells, I think is what they call them, right? Like basically like aged cells in your body. It makes you feel older, like you said, Smug. Like
2 days a month.
It's just 2 days a month. And remember what I told you about my mom when I went to that wedding last week?
Yeah, she said you looked right, and
she's like, you look radiant.
Yep.
And she's like, you taking that stuff?
But something has to be working because I'll tell you, the cast and crew here, we work all day, every day.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of different stuff going. Remember, this is our night
a lot of dial spinning.
time job. Everybody seems to be doing great.
Yeah.
We're in a heavy and stress environment. I don't know whether it's this or not, but it seems to be working out. Resist aging at the cellular level. Qualia Senolytic. Go to qualialife.com/ruthless for up to $100 off and use code Ruthless at the checkout for an additional 15% off. That's qualialife.com/ruthless for an extra 15% off your purchase. Thanks to Qualia for sponsoring our episode. Love every minute of that.
Love it.
Should we play a game?
Yes.
Let's play a game.
Yes.
Let's play a game. I think we got King of the Hill, and I think I'm the champion.
Yeah.
We do have King of the Hill. I'd be playing in this game and would be champion if it wasn't for Judge Mershon Ashbrook.
That is unbelievable.
But I'll accept it for what it is. And I want to introduce the game again for our new listeners, of which there are many.
Yep.
There are many, especially on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have noticed.
Why you prejudiced our new listeners based on the the jurisprudence of various judges here.
No, I invented the game, so I think that's my right. So, King of the Hill is our signature game here on the Ruthless Variety program, in which we pick champions, and we read 3 takes of theirs from Twitter or whatever. And these are former Republicans who have now lost their minds in the age of Donald Trump and decided to become Democrats. And they produce the best, and I want to stress that, the best content in the world. And that's why we play this game, King of the Hill.
Yes.
So I'm bailiff. I think, Smug, you're judge.
I'm the honorable judge, yeah.
And you have our champion, is it?
Steve Schmidt.
Steve Schmidt.
Yeah.
The old fat man.
Yeah.
And Ashbrook, you have our challenger. Who's that?
Jerry Jacobus.
Jerry Jacobus.
That's going to
the
be the
cheat
of the
code.
Titans.
I feel like he comes back with these things.
Well,
just
look.
unfairly.
I mean, it's only fair. I mean, we've missed her. We've missed her.
Our new
Sherry,
viewers
my
are
Sherry.
in for a huge treat.
Okay.
Let's go ringside.
Let's go ringside.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Once again, it's time for King of the Hill. In the red corner, fighting out of her own Twitter account, Kami Cherry Jacobus. And now, in the blue corner, fighting from his lanai in Utah, the old fat man, Steve Schmidt.
Best in the business, man. He's the best in the business.
He added a little extra emphasis on it
so
that
good.
time. It was so good.
It's just so good. Okay. So the thing that I like to start with Steve Schmidt, a lot of consternation about Justice Alito and whatever. The flag thing went through, and they're staying
all the
after
bullshit
him,
they're
right?
trying to throw.
So now they've done like secret recordings of him saying nothing in particular, and they claim that this is a big deal. If you've listened to the 6-minute secret recording of Justice Alito, this is like less radical than your average suburban housewife.
Yeah.
Like there's absolutely
Mr. Rogers pushed the envelope a little further.
it's nothing, but they claim that this is just a massive deal. So I want to put up Exhibit 5 to start with. These recordings of Justice Alito and his wife are a scandal of the highest dimensions. They are genuinely shocking and demonstrate his arrogance and recklessness. He feels no qualms telling a stranger that there are 2 sides and one of them is going to win.
Can I say, this is in response to Justice Alito. I think he was talking to like college graduates or something, telling them that you should always stand on your principles.
That literally is
That's the thing. Like you might think he says something like "go forth and kill everybody." No, he said stand on your principles.
Well,
they freaked out on that.
Also, like a part of this transcript is them saying like, "I don't know whether or not we can live peacefully," and he's like, "Oh no, we're gonna be fine with that." But like virtue, moral there's a fight worth having on this. I mean, it was like everything.
It's like a Ronald Reagan speech.
It literally, it's unbelievable what they call it. But I will always go back when it comes to Steve and it comes to Alito with the fact that I worked with this man.
I was going to ask.
I worked with this man on the confirmation, and I just wanted to read a headline from November of 27th, a spinmeister working the corridors of power. And it's all about Steve, then 35, working his way through the United States Senate to confirm Justice Alito because of his deep appreciation of his judicial mindset.
What a snake.
Wow. I mean, well researched.
I mean, that's what happens when you're the person there.
I mean,
what a snake.
That's a really good argument. What do you got, Ashbrook?
Spaghetti, let's go for exhibit number 7, please. Another RNC-related tweet. The all-important Platform Committee is invoked here. We all know that the Platform Committee is the most powerful thing that's ever been a part of the RNC. But Sherry Jacobus writes, the only, in all caps only, RNC platform item the Trump campaign interfered on was regarding Russia and Ukraine, forcing the RNC to adopt softer language to help Putin. When I wrote about this in USA Today, Trump goons, quote, worked their right-wing editor on the inside to try to get me
right-wing
fired.
editor at
USA Today.
I love Sherry Jacobus because she is one thing and one thing only, and that is like blunt force trauma.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like all of her takes are
nuance.
blunt force trauma.
Nuance.
I mean, that's a great take because, like, I think her central grievance was she applied to work on the Trump campaign in 2016, and they're like, "Nah, you don't make the cut." And ever since then, she's just like, every person I've applied for a job has fired me because Donald Trump secretly goes up to them and says, "Don't hire her." Like she's got other shit to do, lady.
She would be, and this is not an advocate for this particular take because I think it's sort of milquetoast, but she would be Laura Loomer had she been hired.
Like
you think?
Had she been hired by the Trump campaign, she would be Laura Loomer today.
You're telling me like she would have been full bore.
It would have
for
been
Donald Trump.
It would have been the wildest stuff. All the same stuff.
Yeah.
Ingredients. Off the other side.
Oh, interesting.
I just so nobody misunderstands me, I'm not attacking the Platform Committee. They do important work, but the idea that the Platform Committee is what Trump was using as a give to Putin, and he's like, "Hey, look, Vladimir, the Platform Committee at the RNC."
Yeah, it was all a secret conspiracy to change the platform to get her fired.
And so, I mean, here's the thing: is
like, dude, like that is like. I mean, you might actually have paranoid schizophrenia if you think that.
So this is why being the judge is so difficult, because both of these are incredible takes. It's just a little bit more for Holmes with that Steve Schmidt take, because the out of proportions insanity they've had, the shit fit over Alito being like, "Okay, kids, don't compromise your principles."
Yeah, the Alito
they're saying
stuff
like
is...
this is an attack from fascists. That's just so over the top, and the fact that the guy who worked to confirm him is doing that's just too much. First round goes to Steve Schmidt.
Well reasoned, Judge. Your bailiff supports you.
Yeah, great bailiff too.
Yeah, great bailiff. Great bailiff too. Hey, hats off to the agreement.
Okay,
to everyone.
Your Honor, if it please the court, I'd like to present exhibit number 6, please, to start round 2. Exhibit 6, lowering expectations for Biden's debate performance. Okay, he will be fine, more than fine. Waiting for MAGA and NYT to start lowering expectations for Trump's debate performance. The key here is that MAGA and the New York Times are working in cahoots to help Trump against Joe Biden.
That's so cool. That's so cool that she's like the New York Times. Famous MAGA publication.
Well, if you know, like the inside scoop of the left, what they
hate Maggie.
Well, their thought process is Maggie Haberman, right?
Yeah.
That they think that she's so embedded within Trump that she gives a little twinge of support their way.
It is so insane, and I think Duncan, I mean that might be some kind of like a schizophrenic thing to think that, because like Folks, remember, during the 2020 riots, Tom Cotton writes an opinion in the New York Times being like, send in the National Guard to stop these riots. And people at the New York Times got fired for allowing him to write that. And she's like, that's a right-wing publication.
It's a right-wing.
Like,
yeah.
Joe Biden's debate performance, he will be more than fine.
Delusional.
I'm going to go to a different direction.
Okay.
Exhibit 3, please, Begats. On this D-Day anniversary, we remember those who gave their lives for freedom. But they would think of us today. What would they think of us today? What would they think of Trump?
Oh, my God.
They would know what he was. They knew they were fighting fascists so we could live in peace.
Oh, my God. That is so...
Hitler, Trump, =, D-Day, anniversary infused. I rest my case.
That is so sick. On any day, a day when so many Americans gave their lives to this cause, to try to make it about you and your political like that is just a sick and twisted thing to do.
It is sick. May I approach the bench as bailiff? I'm sorry, Holmes.
What the fuck? No, I am not. No. There is no advocacy role in the bailiff. There is no.
You've done it frequently.
I'll hear this out.
It's his court. It's not your court.
I object.
It's not your court.
Vociferously. First of all, there is a Hitler equivalent to Donald Trump on the table right now that you were about to wash away with a little cloth.
You're not even listening to me.
Okay.
But can we put Steve Schmidt's take back up?
Yes.
All right. So here's like my one hesitation on it, because I agree with you in everything, and it is insane. But, like, it also kind of feels a little pro forma. Like, it feels like he didn't put his heart into it. Like,
what?
This feels
You're criticizing a Hitler = Trump take.
Yeah.
In that he didn't have his heart in it?
He really
didn't have his heart in it.
I don't think he had his heart in it. Like, this feels like... Dude, I get what you're saying.
He didn't have his heart in the Hitler thing.
I'm going to make the decision right now. I think... I think Duncan brings up some interesting points. And in light of that, I want this to go to sudden death, third round.
This is outrageous.
I'm going to give that round to Sherry. And now it's going to be both of you guys fighting to decide who's a champion. Round 3, let's get to it.
I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that.
This is a fair court.
Go ahead and
remember that.
Very fair, Your Honor.
Everyone says I'm fair.
Okay.
His blood pressure's rising.
I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I don't care for the extracurriculars. But I will put Exhibit 1 up, which I feel like is fantastic. So the Biden campaign has finally launched a negative ad against Trump. Mind you, they've been running negative ads against Trump for 5 months. This is this week. They've been running negative ads since March. The Biden campaign has finally launched a negative ad against Trump. It's brutal and effective. Trump is small and petty. His cause is selfish and low. And when it comes to Trump, it looks like the campaign finally hooked the Don. Fish on.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
So the ad, just so everybody knows what I'm talking about, the ad was about him denigrating John McCain.
Yeah,
that was it.
Like something we've talked about since 2015.
Yeah, and they rolled it out on D-Day as if John McCain was at D-Day.
Yeah. Right.
And tried to make it seem as though Donald Trump was against our
Donald
soldiers
Trump was
on
against D-Day.
Donald Trump opposed. But the best part of it is the fish on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fish on.
Yeah.
Fish on.
We got him. We finally got him.
Oh, congratulations, pal. 8 years of running fucking negative ads on Donald Trump. And this is the one. This is the one.
Mr. Ashbrook.
Your Honor, if it please the court, I would like to raise a tweet that takes a shot at a colleague of yours.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
A cruise missile directed at one of the greatest jurists of our time. Nikki, exhibit number 9, please. Clarence Thomas has been bribed for years and years. but we only recently learned of it. Our institutions, Congress, media, justice, judiciary, have been corrupt for a long time, but the Trump era has put the corruption in overdrive, exposing it to people, in parenthetical, who aren't in on it.
I feel
Close
warmed
parenthetical.
over. It's like a take from 3 months ago.
Clarence Thomas has been bribed for years. That's libel.
I like how like insane this is because she's like, our institutions have been corrupt for a long time, but here's what you gotta know now, folks. So she's out of her mind.
I also love that she separates justice from judiciary as if those are different things. I don't know exactly what point she's trying to make, but may I offer a defense? I may approach the bench again.
Oh, here we go.
You don't want me to? You don't want me to, Holmes?
No, you go ahead. I don't have any control of this court, obviously.
Well, I think Justice Smug appreciates an activist bailiff, and so I'd like to provide a little extra.
We've certainly provided that.
Yeah, I will provide it.
Okay.
Mr. Bailiff, whatever opinion you offer, I'll respect it because I respect you.
That's very thoughtful. and Mr. Holmes does not. But what I would say about Steve's take that I really actually appreciated in this round is, I mean, like Steve Schmidt and all these fuckfaces who used to work at the Lincoln Project or whatever.
Fuckface is such an underutilized.
It's totally underutilized.
Yeah.
But like that whole take of like, this ad is killer.
This is the one that's going to do it.
Like flame emoji, flame emoji, flame emoji. This is the thing that's going to win. That used to be the thing that they said about the Lincoln Project, right?
Yes.
And then that grift sort of like fell apart, right? And so
Didn't
now
one guy get arrested for being a pedophile? Yeah. I mean, it's tough.
Allegedly. We're laughing.
Allegedly.
We're laughing and it's funny.
Satire.
But I do think it's interesting in this new iteration of those people who used to work for the Lincoln Project that now like they have like their job is to play cheerleader for the Biden for president ads. Like they don't get to be in that role anymore of like putting up the ad where it's like, this is the nut cutter that's gonna beat Donald Trump.
Put him in a body bag, Johnny.
Body bag. That's actually that's a really good point.
So it's just fun. It's funny they've been relegated to like Twitter commentary about ads rather than
And I'll say one thing is I think Ashbrook played his cards extremely well.
Yeah.
Sherry, always brings the heat. I just think this wasn't playing to her strength of like absolute nuttiness. The entire left has gotten the memo of like attack the Supreme Court, attack the Supreme Court, attack the Supreme Court. That's what they're after right now because they want to pack the court, and it feels like she's going with the flow rather than like leading her own charge of these like nutty things, like talking about like. She found some stray cats and she's drinking wine, and then she's like, "Now I'm gonna drop a take," like that kind of stuff.
Those were the glory days.
Like that is
the cats were the
like
glory
that's
days.
undefeated stuff. And you did a great job fighting for it, but I gotta say, round 3 for saying that Donald Trump opposed D-Day. Steve Schmidt still champion. Josh Cole.
I mean, it was really hard to compete with Trump opposed D-Day.
That was tough.
It's just the most ridiculous thing ever.
Oh, I love it. I love it. A very spirited game, as always. Let's get into a couple of areas of variety. First off, according to the Daily Caller, cops abandoned police station claimed goblins were terrorizing them at night. Mm-hmm. Officers stationed at a police station in southwestern Zimbabwe reportedly abandoned it, citing nocturnal harassment by goblins.
Yeah, so I want to stop right here.
Yeah.
What else are you supposed to do when the goblins attack? I mean...
You got to report it, you're saying?
Can I get a definition? Tough. Can I? So, you hear about ghosts or like paranatural, like
ghouls
things.
Yeah.
What's a goblin?
Goblins are totally different.
The old man is prepared to answer this question. He's very familiar with the supernatural.
Is there a goblin template that we should look out for?
No, I don't believe in goblins.
They exist.
Come on, Michael.
No. That you're trying to tell me I'm a goblin guy? I'm not a fucking goblin guy.
I thought for sure you were a goblin
guy. Fucking nerd do you think I am?
I thought you were into the paranormal and magical creatures.
So it's not listen. These guys.
What are you talking about?
This is law enforcement. I back the blue. They saw the goblins. This is not.
I backed the blue.
I mean, like, let's be serious. Do you have Gandalf with you? Then you're not ready to fight goblins, bro.
The goblins?
Leave the station.
Like, you think there's a height requirement of a goblin?
I think they're shorter.
Yeah. I feel like there's a very specific difference between the supernatural and the goblin.
Everyone in their heart knows the goblin, dude. They know the goblin.
You're like wandering a house, the door opens weirdly, and you're like, oh, Jesus, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, it's like, no. Fucking goblins.
Goblins, dude. You bounce. That's immediately.
Do you remember?
I don't stick around.
Do you remember those old Domino's pizza ads about the Noid?
Yeah.
Remember the Noid?
That's a goblin?
When I think of a goblin, I think of the Noid from the old
That's it?
Domino's.
Yeah. It's like very physically present.
Yeah, but small.
Yeah.
Maybe
They're not
runs
they're
fast
not
as
ghost-like, but I think it's not like what do you call it? The Christmas on the shelf?
Yeah,
Elf on the shelf.
So it's obviously like it's a negative actor. Like he's not wishing well upon. You don't want the goblin around.
No,
but he's definitely like a little dude, spry, and he just wants harm.
And he's making your pizza cold.
And you gotta leave. Like, shout out to these police officers. I back the blue 100%. And they're always trying to attack police for this kind of shit.
I think it's so funny. I think it's so funny that there's places in the world in the year of our Lord 2024 that people could not do their job and be like, I couldn't do it because of the goblin.
It's like when you're filling out the form,
They're
reason for leaving
goblin.
post, it's like vacation, illness, goblin.
Do you think it's like you get overtime for dealing with the goblin?
No question.
Time and a half, dude.
That's a big thing. You got to listen. Respect the people of southwestern Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Get those goblins. Fight the good fight.
A second piece of variety that is going to. You guys are going to love this. It's a clip of Trump. Let's do this if you wouldn't mind. Clip 8, Spaghettis.
So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question. And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Do you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are crazy. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand a young woman swimming now who really got decimated and other people to a lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards, or here. Do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, nobody's ever asked me that question. I said, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of electric current coming through that water. But you know what I'd do if there was a shark or you get electrocuted? I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not getting near the shark. So we're going to...
That's the greatest.
He really is. Dude, he
really
does
is.
this hilarious conversation that all of us have. It's basically like, would you rather?
It's man on the couch stuff. It's man on the couch, like you're with your buddies and you're like, would you rather?
Would you rather?
Yeah.
And this gets dark. We take it dark places that we're not going to do.
Well, the fellows and all fellows do this sort of thing.
I'll say something. A lot of people made a big deal about this when Trump got elected, but he had said that if it were up to him, he would kill all sharks, right? And he was right. He was right about that. I think they kind of held him back.
Real shark guy.
He could have gotten them all. He could have gotten them all. We could have cut a treaty with Japan because they're good at it. The goddamn orcas and shit. They know how to do it.
Could have nuked the ocean.
And they're doing more attacks. He said, that young lady got attacked. We could have solved this problem.
Could have nuked the ocean.
And all you'd have to worry about is just swimming away from the battery.
To think we're just potentially a few short months away from a return to this.
Yeah.
Every single day, it keeps people laughing. How could you not?
Life would be so
it is
grand.
it is the funniest thing about a Trump rally is how often he like works in new material and riffs. It's like he's working for his tight five at the Comedy Store, and
Completely.
I love it. It's just very it's funny stuff. It's authentic.
It is authentic. He's working for it.
Yeah.
He looks out there and he's like, I'm giving them something really good. They're laughing, and I'm going to give them everything I got.
Yeah.
And Biden's the opposite. We want to sit there and listen to Biden, or when he croaks, Kamala Harris for the next 4 years. Or we could have
horns.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
dude.
the best he could do. Well, listen, it's great stuff. Reminder, our question of the day. Clearly, the border is a huge problem for Biden, but what's driving your vote? We really want to know whether it's the border, the economy, Biden's age, fitness for office, or whether you're just a Trump guy through and through, and that kind of stuff is just like your thing. I get it all, honestly, but I want to hear the arguments for everything. Get us in the comments on your YouTube, on your comments, where you get podcasts. We will read them all. We look through them, and then we'll read a few next week. With that, Smugglesworth, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode, gentlemen. Again, remember, Minions, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. It's free, and you don't miss an episode. So, until next time, Minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Tuesday. Stay ruthless.